All right, here we go. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, a very old friend of mine is here with us in the studio. He's got his own public access show. He's been on with me before in the past, and he has a heck of a story. Now, the story is one that, I mean, I guess some people would say, well, it's not believable. Some people probably say that. It can't be true. The story, it can't be true. Yet, you know, he'll go on his television show, he'll come on different radio programs, and he'll give you all these different, either give you all these different links or other information that'll corroborate his story. And maybe in the end you start to believe him a little bit more. But listen, that's completely up to you. My friend Phil Marie is here with us in the studio. Phil, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Lee.
All right. So you're struggling right now.
I am, Lee.
So before we get into some of the stuff that you want to talk about today, I think you got to go back and just give everybody the abbreviated version of what has been happening to you.
Okay. All right. So basically, Lee, all this started back in 2007 when I applied to a game show, which is insane, but deal or no deal. So the Hollywood folks invaded my life up in New Hampshire, bugged my house, stalked me, and I strongly believe drugged me, microchipped me. In the back of my head, I woke up with a wound. It took months to heal. There was a bump. I was extremely scared to go anywhere for help, medical fields, anything. You couldn't do it. But so this had carried on for years, Lee, and they chased me out of my house in 2009. I moved back to Connecticut, right, my home turf, and this has never stopped. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And if your listeners know about the Cuba and China incidents with our diplomats, right, I have been talking about this how many years way before that, right, that I've been hit with these weapons. So just when I think things can't get worse, they get worse, Lee. And at this point, since January, I have been now being hit in the head with microwave radiation pulses that on January 10th caused me a concussion. And it lasted 4 or 5 days. You know about it because I talked about it on my show. I sent you emails. I was very concerned. My upper teeth were numb for 4 days. My right eye socket was numb, and I was hit in the right side temple. And real quick, not to bounce around, but the way these weapons work, Lee, they're directed energy weapons or no-touch weapons via satellites. They can lock a beam on a person, and that beam draws energy from nearby energy fields, whether it's a Wi-Fi, electrical current, broadcast towers. So depending on where you are, the intensity fluctuates, and the person or persons pushing these buttons, they have no idea how intense these shocks are going to be depending on your location. That day, I happen to be within 4 feet of an electrical panel in a new construction atmosphere because I work construction. And the front of the panel was off. I was only 4 feet away from that when I got hit in the head in the right temple. And just scarily, absolutely scary.
All right, so I got to ask you, and I asked you this question last time, and I think people who may have not heard last time we talked, they deserve for me to ask you this question again so you can answer it. Why would they choose you? Like, why is Phil, who grew up in Waterford, construction guy, minds his own business, you're not political, you're not controversial, why are they going after you?
Well, I think to CYA, cover their backside, as to what they did to me in New Hampshire. With my house, cameras in my house mocking me, shaming me naked. It was cruel what they did, Lee. And microchip. So, you know what? Your listeners, this is the future, and it's coming fast. And I'm very glad that you talk about this stuff.
I totally believe you can microchip people. That I believe.
It is going on. You can't go and get help at any medical facility or law enforcement because there's an old protocol. If you say you're microchipped, they look at you funny and they want to bring you somewhere to go get some, quote, help.
Right.
And it's so sad. I mean, to me, it's a modern day piracy. If you know of someone who may inherit a lot of money, and if you find a way to drug them and microchip them, you have access to what they think and what they see. Medical microchips work via satellites, right? Real time. Research it. Medical microchips communicate with satellites real time. And then those satellites are hooked to computers. And those computers are now hooked to artificial intelligence, Lee. Man-machine interface. It's very scary.
So you're saying that you believe that now not only are you being attacked by these weapons,
Yes.
you believe that you have a microchip in you that allows them to not only they can see and they can feel what you feel. Is that what you think? Or say? Is that they can? I mean, not feel, but they can see what you see, right?
Absolutely. And
you say you have some kind of proof of that too.
I live it every day, Lee.
Yeah.
If I pick up, well, this is hard to say. Okay, well, they like to go after my private parts.
Right.
So if I pick up a bag, they go after, you know what? Right. This goes on and on, Lee. So to let me know, like if I'm reading something, these shocks interact with what I'm reading, what I'm thinking. Therefore, AI has to be involved. It has to be. Because it couldn't turn into data that quick and a human being to read it and react and push a button.
All right. And have you gone to a doc? Because you say that you want to have somebody take a picture of you want an MRI, right?
Saying it on the air now,
well, what I'm saying is, we reach a lot of people, so you're
exactly.
willing. Would you get an MRI if somebody gave it to you, so you could say definitively whether or not you have a chip?
Of course, Lee. Now, previously, I was on the air with you a year ago, around the New Year, and I had an injury, my bowel, via aircraft, Lee. 2 strong jolts at 2 a.m. Ruptured my colon. I almost died. During those surgeries, one way or another, somehow, I'm telling you, I know my body. We all know our bodies. Something changed after that second surgery. And I felt that everything intensified. And I strongly believe there's a microchip down in the wound area. And the reason I say this is both areas, in the back of my head and down there, at times, they vibrate and they heat up, Lee. It's creepy, scary, but at the same time, I don't ever want to leave out my faith.
Right.
My faith in Christ. I pray all the time. I pray, and the way they win with this technology is they put fear in people, and they put the fear of death. So if they kill me, I win because I go to be with the Lord, and I think that throws a wrench in their program.
Now, you had some audio you wanted me to pick out from Joe Biden.
Exactly.
About microchips?
Exactly.
All right, let me play that for everybody.
Lee, before you play, this is from September 2005.
Okay.
When he was Senator Joe Biden. But listen to this, when he's questioning Justice Roberts on the confirmation hearing.
Okay.
Our constitutional journey did not stop then, and it must not stop now, Judge. And we'll be faced with equally consequential decisions in the 21st century. Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that. And, Judge, I need to know whether you will be a justice who believes that the constitutional journey must continue to speak to these consequential decisions, or that we've gone far enough in protecting against government intrusion into our autonomy, into the most personal decisions we make. Judge, that's why this is a critical moment. There are elected officials in this government such as Mr. DeLay, a fine, honorable, patriotic man, and others, who have been unsuccessful at implementing their agenda in the elected branches. So they've now poured their energies, as the left would if it were different.
All right, there you go. That's the audio from that. Interesting. So, this is 2005, which is, now it seems like that was yesterday, but that's 14 years ago when they talked about, microchipping people. And I certainly, think that we will probably live long enough to see microchips be put in us for medical reasons. Like, people will want them in.
It's happening now.
And communication as well. Yeah, I believe that.
Absolutely. Don't forget that NBC ran a news broadcast with Brian Williams back around 2012, and they were saying that every American would be microchipped by 2017. It's online. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And also Barack Obama brought out the Brain Initiative in 2012 or 13. Which pumped like $100 million to start for everyone to examine the brain. I mean, can you only imagine what they're up to with this, Lee?
Phil Murray is with us. He's an old friend of mine, and again, he's got his own television show. I thought it's an interesting conversation, and he claims, and this is really the real sad part about this, is he claims he's under attack every single day. So I wanted to ask you kind of mentioned it in the beginning of the conversation, but you didn't really tell everybody like what it exactly feels like. What you say you get hit with these shocks like every single day, right? Multiple times.
I do, Lee. I do.
What does it feel like?
All right. There's like 3 different types of attacks. One is a shock or a pulse to the flesh, and it feels like a bee sting. It's painful, and I've had it happen a couple times when I was outside wearing shorts. I got hit in the legs, and it left a 1/8 inch round white dot, a laser burn, on my legs. I have that picture. I've posted it on Twitter, Lee. It happened. And guess where that happened? Out on Route 85 near that huge broadcast tower where the energy field is very strong. So now that's one.
Okay.
A second type is like the pain ray or a pulse that focuses on bone conductivity. Now, bone conductivity is what Google Glasses were using to project sound into your mind without going through your ears, basically. So that's very painful. They can inflame any joint on my body like instantaneously, and it swells up.
Right.
Very painful. And the third type is this energy field, this wave that as it comes over you, you feel it go through your whole body and your vision blurs. And that's only happened a couple times.
Right.
And once was so scary. I was actually watching, I wanted to see, Rand Paul was on with Laura Ingraham. And I wanted to see what they were saying. And as soon as that point came up, this weapon came over me, and it was so scary, Lee. I could see the waves through my eyes, and I'm just sitting there. And so they're basically directed energy weapons. China's behind a lot of this stuff. And by the way, China, I am not underestimating that this very well, China could be involved with a lot of this because of the Hollywood connection. China owns most of Hollywood. China's taken over Silicon Valley. China wants to dominate the world in space. Therefore, Trump started the Space Force to counteract it. Now, GE at the time owned NBC when they bugged my house. All this stuff started. GE has partnered with China with all their technology. GE shared all their satellite technology with China thanks to Bill Clinton. Back, you can research it, Bill Clinton, China Satellites, GE, where Bill Clinton allowed these companies to give the Chinese all this advanced technology, and now China wants to take down America. So,
is there anything that you do that stops these shocks? Is there a place you go? Is there anything that you can do to combat that? And like, is there? You can't. You say you can't hide from it, but is there some place you can go?
Well, basically, away from energy fields, household current, Wi-Fi. 5G is going to ruin all that.
I was going to say that's going to have it everywhere. Right?
5G is going to intensify everything to a point where that no matter where you go, you can have Wi-Fi every inch of the earth, and there's thousands of low-flying satellites, low-orbit satellites that are being sent up by Elon Musk.
Right.
And in other companies to have a blanket coverage of Wi-Fi via satellites. So this type activity, Lee, is going to increase tremendously, and I'm very concerned unless I can get this problem solved.
Right. All right, we only got like 4 minutes left or so. You've got a whole bunch of things. I don't want to leave anything out. What else did you want to bring up? I'm sure there's a ton of it, but pick one or two of them that we can get to.
Oh, boy. Basically, Lee, a lot of this is like a mind control type attempt, which people have heard of that. The CIA has done it for years with the MK Ultra, all that. But a lot of these shocks are based on my thoughts and try to steal all joy. And to me, I consider it like a modern day slavery. Instead of being whipped, you're being zapped, you're being shocked, and it is the future coming in the over in Europe, the European Union. I mean, across the world, this whole microchip thing is going, and there's 12 states right now that have state laws prohibiting non-consent involuntary microchip.
Right.
Connecticut is not one of those states.
I want to ask you that. You just reminded me of something I did want to ask you. So you actually have there's people in I don't want to call it a network, but you have folks who are in the same position as you, right? They feel as though they're getting attacked by the government on a regular basis, correct?
Yes.
And you talk to them all the time. They have this. Do they have the same kind of symptoms you have?
Amazingly, yes. Amazingly, yes. And as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, I had this woman from South Korea reach out to me.
Really?
And she claimed that they kept hitting her in the head, and there's blood now coming out her nose and her ears. Because she said Korea, and I wrote back, I said North or South? South Korea.
Right.
South Korea has the 5G thing ripping.
Right.
It's worldwide.
And you send a lot of messages. You constantly tweet the president and senators too, right? I mean, you're always doing that because you were hoping, in all honesty, that when Barack Obama, was gone and Trump was the new president, this was going to go away, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
It's been disappointing, correct?
And as a matter of fact, it got worse, like by tenfold.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. Unless I don't know. I mean, that's up to the listeners to even try to guess why such a thing would increase so
right.
drastically like that.
Last time you were on too, actually, is interesting because we talked about something very similar, but then you actually had folks reach out to you because there were family members who claimed to have the same thing. I don't want to name names, but there were a couple of people who reached out to you just from listening to us who have the same sort of symptoms happening to them, right?
My advice, Lee, you cannot go to law enforcement or the medical facilities.
Right.
I've done this before. Out at a walk-in clinic. Right. As soon as you say microchip, they go in denial. And then I say, have you not heard of Elon Musk, Neuralink?
Right.
And as a matter of fact, if your listeners want to see the most impressive, scariest interview with Elon Musk, Google Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. It's a 24-minute video on YouTube, and he lays it right out. He tried to warn Obama about it. Nobody will stop this AI microchip thing. And people in the future can choose to get a microchip if they want to be superhuman. So they're actually stealing, like, your souls.
Right.
It's scary technology.
I'm sure a lot of people, you must run into a lot of people, Phil, that don't believe what you're saying, right?
Well,
or some.
Actually, Lee, the people that know me believe me 100%. And the people that meet me, they believe it, but they get uncomfortable with it. So most people can believe it because it happened in China and Cuba, and our own government couldn't find out who was doing it.
Right.
So what happened in China, it was obviously the Chinese. What happened in Cuba, it could have been Russia, it could have been China, whoever.
Right. All right, Phil, we're out of time. Anything else? One last thought or two? Just is there any place people should go? Is there a go-to website you use if folks want to learn more about this? Something you use on your show? Or
basically on my show I talk about it a lot, Lee. But there truly isn't any other way to combat this other than praying a lot, getting a lot closer to God, and you did ask me real quick about protection.
Yeah.
And some people use that term tinfoil hat conspiracy like Hannity does.
Yeah.
And that was years ago when people thought Martians were trying to communicate.
Sure.
But in all sincerity, I have a New England Patriots baseball hat, and I put foil on the inside to combat if I'm getting hit a lot to actually save my brain, Lee.
All right.
So, I try not to do it because I don't, whatever. I don't want to give in to these creeps. So,
well, listen, Phil, hang in there. I'm asking everybody out there, send me an email. Do what do you think? What do you think Phil should do? How do you think he should handle it and all that goes along with that? But, Phil, I'm sorry we got to run, but I appreciate you coming in here. And you have a TV show, right?
I do.
Every Monday night.
Wheel of Freedom, Monday nights, Atlantic Broadband, and it's also on Frontier TV, and Lee, I want to come back, man.
Yeah, sure, buddy. You got it.
Keep on keeping on.
Check out Phil one of these nights on a Monday. It's an interesting hour for sure. All right, listen, we got to run. We'll come back. Don't move.